Okay, again, the post-pivot press, most important thing is to develop a real clear relationship with the muscles between your knees and your ribs, so that whatever you're doing, covering yourself, striking the other person, it's connected to the ground. And again, you can recover your momentum. Now this is kind of a funny thing, but and I talked to lots of martial artists about this, people who train this kind of punches where you're trying to go really fast, but you're actually stopping so you don't blow at your elbows and shoulders. And they all start having these dreams where they get into a fight and they're punching somebody, but their punches don't hurt the other guy. You ever had a dream like that? Right? That's your central nervous system telling you the way you're trying to learn to punch isn't actually going to get you where you want to go. Right? If you're going to strike anyone and you don't have a bag to hit all the time, you want to practice at home, you have to create a circle with whatever strike you're working on to recover the momentum. Otherwise you're going to go, I know that looks cool, no, yeah, or whatever, but neurologically and biomechanically you're actually making yourself weaker at striking a person. So let's work on our sucker punch, our preemptive strike. We have post-pivot press in the sense of maybe being defensive, maybe just ascertaining the situation. So let's look at this as if I want to hit the person as fast as possible. Now there's a few ways to do this, but the most important thing again is these muscles down here. So pick a spot on the wall, or me, or wherever. What I want you to do is, again, post by just dropping your weight into one foot. Doesn't matter which, just like that. And there's sort of a psychology to this. If this person, I'm going to use the camera as the bad guy. If someone's coming at me and looking intimidating, if I can just put one foot backwards into like this, my body language says I'm sort of timid. What I'm really doing is stealing gravity and connecting these muscles together. You see that? So just try that. Go, what the hell? Dude. Right? And again, you want to be able to get yourself into a dynamic situation with your body, something familiar and confident, as soon as you can, while referencing the other guy. And this is all happening in like a tenth of a second. Right? So you see the threat, drop into one foot. Now this is a little, doesn't sound very tough, I admit this, but trust me, try it out. As soon as I've dropped into that back foot, I want to think of my belly button going past the center line of the bad guy. Just for a sec, which is like, what? Hey, what are you doing? As long as I can bring my belly button past the center of the bad guy, then I can use all of these muscles to throw my body forward. Right? So I have to steal gravity, steal turn or pivot, and then explode forward. Right? So just try that about 200 million times, or a few. Right? And work on the mechanics. Right? As you can. It doesn't have to be a straight punch. You could use your palm, right? You could think of it as a big smack. Mechanics are the same. Short hook, big haymaker if you like something that ridiculously obvious, right? Basic jab. But the mechanics are always going to be the same. You're posting, stealing gravity, pivoting, stealing turn. As long as your center line just pivots past that person's center line, you can use the return. Basically eject a bunch of force outwards, and hopefully recover your momentum if you miss. So again, typically, if you're doing this, if you're right-handed, you want to practice, sit back on your left foot, turn with your pocket muscles, and then you want to come out with your lead side, your strong side forward, and your other hand should be up, getting ready to play. This is the end. This is the beginning. Whack! Somebody in the face. So it's all one movement. Okay, so a couple of important things about this kind of interaction when we think of a preemptive strike. As soon as I see the opponent beginning to do what we might call the chicken dance, he's demonstrating some kind of threat or animosity towards me, my job is to not do anything until I'm sure I have to. Right? And legally, and this is called the use of force laws, legally, you can't actually really do anything until the other person's hands are moving above their elbow and towards you in a threatening manner. Right? I mean, up here, shouting at God, pointing at you with one hand, talking about whatever he's mad about, at this point isn't really a severe threat. He's just having an intense conversation with you. But as soon as he looks like he's chambering a weapon. He looks like he's got both of his hands ready to move towards you. You now are in the condition of assault and what's called, assuming battery. He's gonna hit me. Now you can actually hit him first, right? Now, one thing that's very popular to see in Bruce Lee movies and lots of other places is to go like this and to just whack him right square in the center of the face. Right? If I can just go out there and hit him as fast as I can in the face, I've preempted him. Now, of course, I have to wait for him to do threatening things. Right? So as soon as his hands come up and look like they could be doing something, I can hit him. Now, I don't want to hit him and throw back like this. I want to hit him and stay there. Now, in applied combatives, we say a closed fist is a condom. Because it's safer for the person you're hitting. Right? Because the bones of your hand will probably break before anything severely happens to that person's head. And more importantly, and then as a doctor, I think this is really important to say, if you punch someone in the face, their teeth may break off and end up in your hand. And it's very common in the emergency ward to be pulling people's teeth out of your hand. And most people's mouths are full of bacteria. So if you want to punch them as hard as you can in the face, you're risking losing your hand. That's it. You can do the same basic movements like this. Okay, there's a threatening guy. And just come out with my hand like this and hit him, or just get my hand on his face and get ready to affect his structure as best I can. So it doesn't matter what you decide to do. That's the basic movement, is post, pivot, and press. Right? The most effective thing to do with your hand off the line in terms of preemptive strike is to dump most of your energy right into their diaphragm, and then climb up and start finishing the job on the rest of their body. Right? So it's just to have that very clear sense of punch, open hand, or, and this is actually a really, really good idea, is to prepare your preemptive strike to the head as a push. And to just think about shoving him in the face, and then you'll try and get your hand off of his face, and now basically it's your turn because he's defending himself or trying to get your hand out of his face. So partner up and basically just try that back and forth. Make sure you have what's called ranged in, which means I can basically move as comfortably and as ballistically as I can and barely touch his hand and then get ready to keep going. If I keep going like this, then maybe I shouldn't be using his face as my target until I'm clear about the range I have. But again, this is just a thing of, okay, wait, maybe you can snap your fingers or something, and then just want to touch his hand and be ready. Right. So, okay, quick review. It doesn't matter if you're being offensive or defensive, you're going to have to go post, pivot, and press. You can use pivot to cover yourself. You can use pivot to load up your structure to get your preemptive strike or your attack going as quickly as possible. So if I can borrow you for a second. For safety's sake, if he's got his hand here representing his face, just not past his face, and he decides to use his slapping his leg or snapping his fingers or something like that, then I can start practicing. I'm trying not to look at his hand, so maybe something behind you so I have less snappy things stand here. Right, so as long as I can constantly drop, get my body organized behind my fist, and get my fist out there. And again, I'm not trying to hit him as hard as I can at this point. I'm just trying to become familiar with my body, getting here, going, okay, now I'm committed to a viscerally intense, violent interaction where I have to do more harm and damage than the other person, or more pain and damage than the other person does in a few seconds, or it's going to turn into a ground situation where you're ground fighting, wrestling, and if there's more than one person, that's it, you're done. Because all it's for us to do is walk up and stomp on your head while you're trying to do some cool submission you saw in the UFC, right? Which is great, but on the street, the last thing you want to do is end up on the ground. So, I mentioned put on your hand for a second. So if I'm looking at this as my closing, as soon as people get within that distance where it's kind of obviously they're in your face and your space, then you want to be able to just click in your mind, okay, this situation is now closing in, or we're moving into crashing. So that's the next thing I want to have in my mind. A good way to close in is to get a hand up there, but it's just as likely as not, he's going to react to that. Right? So now you can come at me with whatever. And I'm going to basically try and clear the lanes, get my hand on your face, but what I really want to do is crash into his limbs. Right? I mean, this is bonus, it may not happen, but as long as I have both of my hands on both of his limbs, right, now I have a situation where if I shove at his face and he doesn't like that, He throws his hand up here, maybe I hit him here, get my hand inside here, and start delivering some kind of pain or damage to his body. You know, obviously he's going to keep trying to do stuff too, but my mentality is never block. So he comes at me, and he's probably not going to stop there, but you know, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. This is going to take forever, geez. Right? I can keep doing this to protect myself, but effectively on a tactical level, he's closing on me, and I'm not even crashing. I'm just saying, no, I don't want to crash into you. I don't want to deal with the fact that we're going to have to tie up our horns and really go for it, right? I'm not saying protecting yourself is bad. I'm saying if you just focus on no, that's all your mind is saying is no, no, no. You're defending yourself. What I want to do is something completely different. I want to attack his weapons, right? Because that was mine. I could rip it off here. I got the other one in my hand here, which could go into his face. And so as soon as I've attacked his weapons, I can attack his structure, right? Any number of ways, right? Where now, his body's busy saying, holy crap, because a minute ago, he was the bad guy. Right? So there I attacked his weapon and its structure a little bit, threw some energy into his body, and now he can't actually effectively attack me without moving his weapons away from me, right? Some way, where obviously that one has to move away from me to do something. So I'm in a situation where I've crashed into him, and now I'm ready to go into control, right? Which is affect his structure, move his weapons away, so I can really start, you know, doing what I need to do. Well, that was sort of a fun-like thing to show, but just to give you that mentality, you have to move from closing in to crashing as fast as you can. Now, let's again assume he's coming at me and I'm distracted. Now again, I can post, use pivot to clear and maybe rake his eye or something like that and still turn it into crashing as fast as possible. If that's my instinctive awareness, that's my training. Go like that, you know, get the weapon and just start doing whatever you need to do to screw him up, basically. Does that seem obvious? Right? Okay. That's the important thing here. If this doesn't seem like obviously the sequence of events, then you're not going to get into it. Right? So what's really important is, as a person comes at you, you come at them. If I get my preemptive strike in, and then I get him and I pull it back on purpose to demonstrate this, it's not point fighting. Just because I hit him once doesn't mean I've won. It means now I really have to start hitting him a lot more because I just hit him as mad. Right? So again, if I get a preemptive thing out there, and then I get some sense of crashing into his weapons, notice my hand's on his face here, right? And maybe there's another guy. So as I'm basically bashing this guy's face in and doing whatever I need to do to him, I'm looking for the other guy. So again, partner up. And what I want you to do is focus on your preemptive strike. And as you're doing that, the other person's he's gonna do his preemptive strike fast as he can. And I'm gonna cover it, and then just crash into his weapons. Right? Then I'll do a preemptive strike, and he'll do the same thing. Right? And crash into the weapons. Right? Just to have that idea. Now, this is a fun thing. It's his turn to do a preemptive strike, and I know I need to protect myself and get my hand on his weapons. So I can cover this and hit him at the same time and hit him again. So there's no rule that says I can't hit him in every operation that I'm doing. Right? But at first, protect yourself, crash into his weapons, just so that you feel confident that that's necessary. Right? Keep it simple and repetitive over and over again. Because again, this is about you getting so confident in your body that as soon as a threat arises, your hackles come up, you just have to think of post pivot press, get my hands on the weapons, and start delivering some kind of thing in this person's body. Because that's confidence in combat. Any other mental arrangement, any other emotional state of being is not your friend. Until you're the predator, you're the prey. Try that.